Good afternoon. So you've had a long day, and it just so happens that in the schedule we have two stellar talks right after a pretty hectic morning. But I assure you that it will be worth it. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Suraj Yengde, who is a Shorenstein Center inaugural postdoctoral fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School. From what I know, Harvard actually made this postdoc so that they could have him. So he's such a star, you can imagine. He has worked with leading international organizations in Geneva, London, and New York, and is associate editor of Caste, a global journal of social exclusion. His writings have featured in South Asia, Journal of South Asian Studies, Social Transformations, Economic and Political Weekly, Huffington Post, Hindustan Times, the Indian Express, the Globe, and on and on and on the list goes, The Guardian, etc., among other leading publications. His first book, Caste Matters, is forthcoming from Penguin Random House, India. So Suraj is going to speak to us about caste in contemporary India, and we really look forward to your talk. Suraj, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am so delighted and glad to be here. So we'll talk about caste. Let's begin with this musical that we have. Do we need the light on? But the music seems to be not working. Let's begin from the. Let's have a fresh start. We want to do that. Maybe refresh? Okay, thank you. On public demand. And it's going to have an ad. I wanted to skip that part.
Rajat. He started his class's WhatsApp group and became super popular. Rajat may be the admin, but he's never really had to act like one. Except today.
Are you really sure that this is true?
No, man, it was a forward.
Meet Kavya. She lives away from her family, but very close to their house. On the family's
పంజర్లో పూచేటి పూలన్నీ నీ హాయాలే ఎన్నో ఎన్నో వర్ణాల హరి
So the video that you saw earlier was about those couples who were the video that you saw of the couple who had made that video when they got married, and this next video was the one both were walking out. The girl was pregnant, and the father of the girl hired the hitman to kill the boy. The difference was he married a Dalit man, and because of that, a broad daylight murder took place. This recently happened about 2 months ago. Now let's go to another video.
This caste has absolutely no part in giving seats, etc. It's very unfair.
લોકાશને અન્યાય થવા જેવો સવાલ હતો નથી. લોકાશને અન્યાય થશે તો લોકાશ આગળ આવીને કહેવાની જ છે. જેમ આપણે અન્યાય થયો તો આપણે આગળ આવીને કહીએ છીએ, એમને અન્યાય થશે તો એ લોકો આગળ આવીને કહેશે.
હવે આ સમાજમાં તો એવું રહ્યું જ નથી ને. હાલના સંજોગોમાં ક્યાં એવું રહ્યું છે? અત્યારના સમાજમાં એવું છે જ નહીં કે લોકોની સાથે આપણે દુર્વ્યવહાર કરી રહ્યા છીએ કે સરકાર કરી રહી છે. એવું છે જ નહીં ને. સમય બદલાઈ ગયો છે ને.
Frankly speaking, I was out of India for 25 years and I've just come back. So I don't know the real scenario, but I think the youth is doing the right thing to go against this.
Why economic status is not given importance and why caste system is being given importance. Whenever you ask any political leader, he will say, "No, yaar, it should always be on caste system." But we say, why are you dividing us on caste system?
અને એ લોકોમાં હોશિયારી તો કોઈ આગળ આવી શકે છે. એના માટે એ લોકોને કઈ વધારે ટકા અનામત આપવા કે કોઈ જરૂરી જ નથી એમ. હવે સવર્ણોને અન્યાય થઈ રહ્યો છે. ઊંચી કાસ્ટના લોકોને અન્યાય થઈ રહ્યો છે.
Don't introduce reservations. That's it.
હેતલબેન ચંદુભાઈ સોલંકી.
હેતલબેન ચંદુભાઈ હેતલબેન ચંદુભાઈ સોલંકી. તમે?
રમીલાબેન કનુભાઈ મીરાબેન ઈશ્વરભાઈ સોલંકી. આ ત્રીજામાં પાંચમું અને સાતમું.
હવે સ્કૂલમાં તમે જાઓ ભણવાનું તો ખરું ને, એ સિવાય તમારે શું શું કરવાનું હોય?
I'm a wanderer, reveling in my curiosity.
આ બધું સાફ કરી આ બધું આખું મેદાન પાછળથી ચોખ્ખું ને વાના હોય. સોમવારે મારો, મંગળવારે બુધવારે
એવી રીતના બધા છોકરાનો મારો હોય. ના સમજાયું, સમજાવો. ના સમજાયું.
પટેલા સિરોયાના વાળા ના હોય એમને વારવાનું ને તો ઢગલી ને તો વાકળે ને કરવાનું અને અમાર કરવાનું. આ તેલમાં લીધું અને સાચું જય અમાર લીધું.
તને આવડે ચા મૂકતા? આવડે બધાને ચા મૂકતા આવડે?
ચામાં શું પાણી એક ગ્લાસ લેવાનું, પછી ઉકાળીને ખાંડ નાખી દેવાનું, પછી દૂધ ચડી જાય તો દૂધ નાખી ઉકળી જાય તો દૂધ નાખી થઈ ગયું.
તો છોકરીઓને ચા મૂકવાનું આપે કે છોકરાઓને બી આપે?
છોકરીઓ
છોકરાને આપે. આ તમારા બાળકની એમ?
ના કરીએ તો મારે તે ડોલ લઈ બે જણ ના જઈ અને પછી બે ડોલ નરેહી ભરીને આવવાનું અને
के बाद खबर तमिलनाडु से यहाँ हॉट त्रिशूर में सरेआम शादीशुदा जोड़े पर 5 लोगों ने धारदार हथियारों से हमला किया और लड़के को मौत के घाट उतार दिया। शंकर और कौशल्या इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज में पढ़ते थे, वहीं से दोनों के बीच प्यार शुरू हुआ। दोनों की 8 महीने पहले ही शादी हुई थी। लड़का दलित जाति से था जबकि लड़की ऊंची जाति से ताल्लुक रखती थी। शादी के बाद से ही दोनों को धमकियां मिल रही थी। इस हत्या का आरोप लड़की के पिता पर लगा है। लड़की के पिता ने सरेंडर कर दिया है। सड़क पर हत्या का वीडियो सीसीटीवी कैमरे में कैद हुआ है।
सड़क पर हॉरर किलिंग।
That's fine. We can just move there now.
22 साल के स्टूडेंट को मार डाला। दलित छात्र को लव मैरिज करना पड़ा भारी।
So the video that you just saw was actually about the same issue, what they call in India here, honor killing, which actually is a caste killing. So the topic we have today is caste in contemporary India. We saw 3 snippets of what caste is. First is the way it operates in India. Caste equates in most instances brutal violence. If you violate the code of caste, you face the wrath of the society. So let's begin with the concept of what a Dalit means, and then we'll go slowly by what the caste system means. So you see, they were talking about a Dalit boy or those Dalit girls. Dalit is a caste which is were former untouchables who were unseeable, which relied on the whole notion of purity and pollution. So you were born in a particular caste and there was no escape. You were born in that caste, you will die in that caste. And based on the very merit of your birth, your life was chosen by the very account of your caste. So the violence is so gruesome that an estimation, according to the records, and it still is exceeding, but this is what the government record says, that a crime is committed against a Dalit person every 18 minutes. So 18 minutes before, there was a serious crime committed against a Dalit. 18 minutes after, another serious crime will be committed against a Dalit in this country. This is the statistics. 13 Dalits are murdered each week. 5 Dalit homes are burnt each week. 6 Dalit people are kidnapped or abducted for the very purpose if they want to. Kidnapping and abduction is very, very central to many, to kind of maintaining the rural kind of caste system. And 21 Dalit women are raped each week. This is the statistics for each week, the current status of Dalits in the Indian caste society. This was another incident where in Badon, a place in Uttar Pradesh, where 2 Dalit girls, minors, were raped, sisters were raped, and they were hanged to death. And when the case kind of came, you all know the incident in Delhi, if you have a memory, about 4 or 5 years ago, where there was a rape and in Nirbhaya, and this whole spiraled down and whole country and the world know. Actually, 2 days before and as well as 3 days after, there was a brutal murder of a Dalit woman. She was also raped. Nobody took account of that case. But that happened, and we did not see any of such outpour. This case was again dismissed by the state government as being rape. They said they hanged themselves out of shame. The CBI kind of concluded without coming to account, and when the local records had shown the otherwise incident. Let's look at the crimes against the scheduled caste. What kind of crimes are committed against them? So you see, this was in the year 2013. We are in 2014 also. We have a data, but this is the data. Each year, almost, this is again a government data. Rape and this hurt is overwhelmingly, present. So that means caste is used as a shield, and woman is used to perpetuate a caste system where violence against women is the most functional characteristic of caste system. And so rape is one of the prominent features. So if you go in rural parts of India, even today, and as it happened in the past, a woman, if she is Dalit and she reaches a certain age, she's being raped since childhood by the landlord or the feudal lord they are tied to. And this is a case that happens across various parts of the country, especially in extreme rural areas. And also there is a tradition, or it's an imposed form of a punitive system where if there is a marriage in the Dalit household and the girl comes, first night she will not sleep with her husband. She has to go to the what they call Haveli, pe aa jao, and the respects to the Havelis. And this kind of repeated rapes are the incidental of how caste system operates in the country. So the reason of this is the Supreme Court saying that the crime against Dalit people under the caste system is to humiliate and subjugate. So the humiliation and subjugation is very central, meaning the humanity is withdrawn, and by the very premise that you don't deserve the rightful agency of being a common person, an equal person, a person who can occupy the space. This very fact is taken as upfront. So when I am claiming my equal space, the other person, a person who is enjoying the privilege of caste, will constantly look out to humiliate or subjugate me. It's under the conscious. It's the way caste system breeds the people in this country, where people from privileged caste do not understand at all that their very actions are injunctions upon the people from the lower castes, so-called lower castes, in lower caste bodies. And so every little incidents that happen in India are actually to relegate the equalness that the person is demanding as a human being. And I think this is where the fundamental of caste system kind of takes place. And of course, we have the crimes which are committed against Indian Penal Code. It's a penal code where we punish people for crimes. But the crimes that committed against Dalits do not necessarily fit into this broader definition of penal code, because penal code is a generalized form where humiliation and subjugation and targeted attack against a community. So when a Dalit is attacked or when a Dalit woman is raped, it's not an individual act. It is against the community. So when we see a crime taking place, it is to invoke the kind of a broader notion of this organic formation of caste, which is not centered around individual. This is in 2016. Recently, there were about 47,000 cases of crime committed against scheduled caste, which is the Dalit and as well as the tribal people of this country. And this is funny. In 10 years, there were close to 500,000 crimes were committed. And when we say crime, I have shown you the level of crimes, rape and murder and all. In the past 10 years, this is the kind of record that we come to know. And against the tribal people, there's close to 81,000 crimes in those 10 years. Gujarat features here prominently, alongside this major populates another 10 states. Every hour, what happens is 2 Dalits are assaulted. Every day, 3 Dalit women are raped. by the end of this day, according to the government statistic, 3 Dalit women will be raped anywhere in this country by the time we go to bed, or by the time we are thinking about doing something to humanity. 3 Dalit women's lives are being wasted and assaulted. 2 Dalits are murdered every day, and 2 Dalit homes are torched. Now, this is a very significant. We have pogroms in India, and every time where there is a caste violence in any part of the country, there's usually, when there is a violence, the community, which is ex-caste community, will invade a war upon this minority Dalit communities living in villages, who are mostly working as landless laborers or peasants. And the kind of assault that is committed upon them is either to destroy their houses because they want to destroy the shelter, to uproot them. And so if you are living in a house and if you don't have a shelter and you have a family, you have kids and all, when a house is torched, you have nothing, you have to sleep in the open floor. And this is a life that is being centralized to kind of giving a punishment of such sort that you will not have recourse to it. You don't have, if a house is destroyed, a house is destroyed. Ask anyone who were here during the times of the Gujarat earthquake, for example, in the Khoj. You have no other recourse. And murder, as we saw, broad daylight, 2 cases where they decided to, and it was incident. But here's the thing. The minister of the state said that they can provide armed licenses to the members of the scheduled caste or scheduled tribe, the Dalits or Adivasis, because the violence is so gruesome that the statistics keeps on increasing. 47,000 people were, 47,000 Dalits faced the wrath of the caste system in 1 year alone. And so there are various measures government is thinking, but I think this is one of the things that was tabled, has not yet gone out of the fold. Caste system is specifically related to the very fundamental idea of purity and pollution. So we don't like them because they are dirty people, or they're impure people, or they are not clean people. The whole hygienic debate is used, and you might have heard this in your family. If you are Indian, your mom might say, don't bring her in if she's your help, if there's what you call servant, she's your driver. There's always a separate quarters for them. The idea, that's where the caste system takes very prominent place, because you don't want the person who's coming from the low caste or the untouchable caste to enter your so-called sacred spaces. And manual scavenging, which is the world's most filthiest job, where you have to clean someone else's shit without any, and this job is given to you by the very sheer account of in which caste you are born. That's it. So the only qualification to do this kind of terrible job is to be born as a Dalit. And we have all the defenders of this caste system, and we also have people who have this liberal approach to destroy it. Still doesn't fit. Every 5 days, there is one person who is dying cleaning our shit. So when we go and dump in the morning, in the next 5 days, there will be one Dalit who is entering the sewerage and is being killed on account of our own tragedies that we impose upon them. This again, open sewerage. This guy just goes down and it's coming out. There's a whole movie around this. It's on manual scavenging in India. Every day morning in India, at least you are in Gandhinagar, but in many semi-urban, also in urban areas, there are dry toilets, there are dry latrines. There's no flush. So the people use the public bathrooms, and every morning, Dalit woman has to step outside and clean human shit. And they have to carry that with bare hands and look at her face. This is someone else's shit. We can't tolerate looking at our own shit. Can we look at our own shit for 5 seconds? 2 seconds. We have disgust to our own shit. Imagine doing this, giving the responsibility of our own shit for these people. That is a part of your profession. The Dalit children, when we talk about school, and you saw that incident where when they are going to school, they're actually doing manual labor. And if they're not doing, she says, we have been beaten. And one thing she says, when the interviewer asks, why only you? And she gives very innocent answer, you know why. This, you know why, is very normalizing thing, meaning, you know why, right? I mean, we are this and, let's get on with that. I think that has become the status quo of the caste system in India. It has normalized. This is what it is, So almost 1 out of every 3 government schools prohibit children from sitting together. So it's a broad day apartheid. You can't just sit together. And if you go to any villages, you will see this, where you will have separate compartments, and Dalit children most often sit on the floor than sitting on the benches, or they have to bring their own water bottles and their own lunch boxes. Lunch boxes are not shared. And so in India, they have a new scheme where to encourage students to come to schools, they offer a free meal. And the tragedy of this is the children refuse to eat the food. The small kids going to school refuse to eat the food with the Dalit children. If you're a Dalit, will not get. These are toddlers. These are just first graders, second graders. And if your chef is a Dalit, then no, the food is not being consumed. And many Dalit women lost their jobs because the food that she's cooking is not appreciated, right? From first and second grade onwards. So when we say there are crimes, and why don't Dalit report to the police station? You know, they should go and take a course of law. 27.6% Dalits were prohibited from entering the police station. And this is, by the way, this is again a government statistic. There is no rural-based serious analysis or serious data collection as to how many of them are prohibited. But still, if this is an indicative, then 1/4, almost more than 1/4 of them are not encouraged to file case. Public health workers refuse to enter Dalit homes. So if you need to have a vaccination, if your child is sick, or if you need to have any polio, 1 in 3 will refuse. No, I will not go in that house. So if the child, if there's a Dalit house, if he or she is having a serious disease or serious medical attention, they are not being attended. Almost half of Dalit villages are denied access to water resources. Now, water is very central to us, right? Can we live without water? One of the first civil rights movement of Dalits was centered around water. Almost half of Dalit villages, meaning in India, they call it 6 million or 600,000 villages. I don't have the record yet. But that number is representative of the fact that Dalits are minority in every villages. And when they have to go and fetch the water, which is a common well or common pond, they are not encouraged. And in one of the films, it's called India Untouched. It's made by Stalin K. It's available on YouTube. It's called India Untouched. He kind of chronicles, and that's in Gujarat, where the Dalit women have to wait far. Whereas this woman, in rural areas, they fetch the water belonging to the dominant caste, the landed caste, the peasants, the landowners. They fetch the water, they have their own gaga, they have their own socializing. And as soon as they leave, you see the Dalit women quickly rushing, fetching the water in whatever minimum time, because they want to make sure that the person doesn't see that they are fetching the water from the common well, from the well. And they do that and they run away. So to drink a glass of water, it's a life and death game in India. Dalit and non-Dalit people cannot eat together in 70% of rural villages. So when we talk about this rural India, vibrant India, we have to talk about these issues. 70% of the Indian villages, humanity is segregated. And it's very serious. And if you violate the codes, you feel the wrath that we saw in one of the few videos. So caste, it's a Portuguese word. Let's go back now. This is something we need to pay attention to. It could mean many things. It could mean lineage. It could mean the race. The etymology has its Portuguese origins, and it comes because the idea of caste, the castas, was existing in the psychology or in the civilization of the Portuguese kind of thinking. This is how caste. These are strict divisions, and that's where it comes from. And then we see in Latin America too the castas taking. There's a caste system that is existing in all parts of the world, and I think that's the kind of emergence. So this is how caste system in India works. So this is the Ubermensch. This is the Brahma. So this is where we see this how it's graded. So you're a Brahmin, that means, and this is what it is. You have come from the head of a Brahmin. And that too a male, not a female. And this is Kshatriya, the second. A Brahmin had given you birth from his arms. You have to believe it. And if you're born from the arm, you're the warrior by default. The Vaishya, the Banyas, the traders, the merchants who own the money, These were the kings, these were the teachers and all the officiating authorities. The Baniyas came from the Thais, the Shudras, the laborers or artisans and all the lower caste came from the feet, meaning the gradation is according to the feet is the lowest and then you go upwards. But there's a fifth category that doesn't belong to humanity, that doesn't belong to a human complexity. Untouchables. Untouchables have no place in the human system. They are outcasts. They are not human. And that's why the declaration of non-humanity is so prevalent that when a Dalit like me claims a humanity, it's taken as an affront because you are not supposed to be part of this humanity. You are an outcast. An outcast means just be that filthy, dirty person who we like for you to go into sewerage and clean our toilets. And if there is a lot of shit, we will make complaints. And please take the dead animal out of front of us because that animal is stinking for us. These are the kinds of kind of a caste methods that operate in the society. If you have any questions, you should just stop and ask. So castes, in a few ways, it's endogamy. It is meant for humiliation. It is a family system. Now, Indian family system is the best carrier of family caste system. Family upholds the virtues of caste system. In India, the affection of children to parents is primarily tied through maintenance of the caste system. People talk it as being as an emotional attachment and all. That has nothing to do with the way one has to maintain the caste. Because at the end of the day, caste system is to maintain, and it happens through this endogamous practices, meaning you have to marry and you have to reproduce from among the same subcaste. We talked about caste, but there are subcastes among whom the relation takes place. So many times liberal people talk to me that I want to get rid of caste. I say get rid of family system because it's your parents and it's your family system that has upholded the caste system. They have given you this caste system as a birth and they have normalized you in your head that this is a normal thing because that's what you see in the world. And the family system has been primarily responsible for many people saying, I love you, but my parents. I would love to hang out with you, but my parents. I would love to go and hang out in that area, or I would love to go with you to that place, but my parents. What are parents doing? Parents are caste police. They constantly want to make sure that caste is preserved in your everyday actions. Pollution, as we saw, yes. You ask the Indians here, they will tell you best answer, who come from the privileged castes. The answer is affirmative, from my experience at least. Because the point is, they don't even see the privileges they carry. It's just given thing, and that's how you visualize the world. That's how you see this is how the world is supposed to be. So there's no alternative or contra view. And if there is anything that comes alternative or contra, the person takes and becomes defensive and ends up defending the caste system without knowing he or she is defending the caste system. There are various nomenclatures that are used under the name of caste system. In pollution is a very central thing because the lowest paying jobs in India belong to mostly the tribals or the Dalits. Pollution makes sure that the gradation of occupation hierarchy is maintained. And you can see this anywhere, again, go and hang out and talk to privileged caste person in this space or outside and ask them how would it manifest in your house being. There are various ways, many times it's also not to, usually there is a space in almost every Indian Hindu household for a god. There's a small temple and, created, A person not belonging to that specific caste is not allowed. Even if you are a person who is having good relation, but if you don't have a caste, you can't, because that space is considered, and where you have temple, you have established the caste rules. And I think that's how this comes into formation. Caste is also about imitation, meaning how the point is, there's a story that goes that the Brahmin, Parshurama, chopped the heads of 21 Kshatriyas, the people who came from this. And the question remains, why are Kshatriyas so cool with that? Like, They chopped your ancestors. 21 generations of your ancestors were chopped by the Brahmins. And you're still cool with that. Because the idea of imitation exists here. Because you imitate the way Brahmins are imitating or imposing the caste rules upon someone else. And it goes downwards. And the central aspect of imitation is you kind of practice caste very easily because you already have a model in front of you. You don't have to create new. There's a top hierarchy which is maintaining the caste system, and as you go lower, you just do a sort of imitation. It's literally you don't have to do much efforts, and you don't have to be much creative. Whatever is existing outside, you just practice, and that's what we see in Indian cinema industry. There's no creativity. It's all imitation. There's all something stealing from here and there. Social status. Caste is about social status. We talked about outcaste, privileged caste, and people belonging to, your social status is what informs the caste system. And that social system is then transferred into occupations. Then depending upon your social status, you are given the kind of jobs you have. It's again a gradation, top. And among the 5 categories, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there are enormous subdivisions. Among Brahmins, there are close to 500 subcastes, meaning the Brahmins who are top, they also have their lower and upper caste, as much as the untouchables have the many thousand subcastes. I told you, I talked about occupation and segregation, as I said. In India, also in Gandhinagar, the areas where people live are segregated. A Muslim, a Dalit, or a tribal, a Brahmin household, or a so-called upper caste household. These segregations take place in India. In every city you go, in every rural area you go, Dalits will have a separate quarter. They are not welcome into the mainstream or into any other houses. And if you want to buy a house, and this is coming out of many experiences of my friends who have made well of themselves, millionaires, they wanted to buy a house in this block in Bombay, an apartment, they were refused. The first question they used was, do you eat meat and what kind of god you worship? And depending upon that, you guess it. Okay, what's your caste? And then, that's how it works. So violation of caste, violation of all these rules invites punishment. Punishment is the first thing that you will witness when you are engaging with caste or you're violating the caste system. And punishments are of various forms. You are excommunicated, for example. You are ostracized, meaning that's it. Nobody will engage, nobody will have. In contemporary times, when Dalits in many rural areas, and this is reported in the newspapers, when they are protesting against the caste system in rural areas, the whole entire village is excommunicating them. They are ostracizing them. What happens when you ostracize a person? You don't engage with them. You don't provide them food. You don't have this business. You don't hire them. If there is a grocery store, you don't provide them food. Excommunication is terrible form. So you don't literally have a life. You just have to live in that quarter. And I think this ostracization is being one of the cardinal kind of formations of a rural political economy of caste. Because if there is an ostracization, there is a dire need for that labor. And then you might ask, well, the people who own land need the Dalit labor. Then why do they excommunicate? The idea of excommunication is to be that intimidation, is to not repeat this act. And many times the Dalits have been forced to leave the villages and many of them gone to the urban areas. So in present day era, these are the kind of few examples. So if you see here, your servants or the security guards, even in this campus, these are people who, for example, most of the time have left the rural areas for various reasons. One of the primary reasons was that they had suffered caste system. And many people in this room who are from the Dalit background could attest to the fact that the situation that they were brought up into, that they grew up into, was just not hospitable. They had to leave in order to survive. And when they came in this modern in these locations, they occupied the filthiest, lowest paying jobs. The manual scavenger is the most damned person currently in India, because you want the person, of course, to clean a shit, but also you don't give the respect the person desires. And then the caste system works in a way that we end up defending the manual scavenger or manual scavenging practices. The workers, if you see people who are working as a mason or doing odd jobs, the kids don't go to school, The kids were just hanging out. Nishant and I, we were talking about that. There were some kids from that Adivasi tribal background. The parents are, digging the thing, and the kids are just having no future. And under that circumstances, these are toddler babies. They need a care that is absent. And in this very education institution, which is supposed to be the stellar education institute of the government. And then you have cobblers. They work in crematoriums, burying the dead. They're also in slaughterhouses. These are all filthiest jobs where you are, where the idea of dead is very much concerned. And of course, prostitution is very, very prominent among the Dalits, where this trafficking takes place in total. So caste system could be seen in these religions. It's not only Hindu. Christianity has a caste system. Buddhism has a caste system where people continue to practice its own form, although it should not have been. Sikhism has its own unique form of caste system. Islam has its own caste system, and Manisha Sethi yesterday talked about Jains having a caste system. Although nobody has done research on this minority community, which has immense amount of economic control, continues to practice, but they would not engage critically on this. Caste is primarily an anti-woman. Caste institution works primarily targeting women's independence and autonomy, because woman is the carrier of caste system. She can also be the barrier of the caste system. And that's why woman is the most policed individual in India. From childhood, she is being trained to behave, act, and react to certain situations. From childhood, and of course this comes from this whole Vedic laws that Manu had indoctrinated, that from when the child is born, she needs to be under control and taken care of by her father. When she is young, she needs to be taken care by her brother. When she is married, she needs to be taken care by her husband. And when she is old, she needs to be taken care by her son. A male control, a patriarchal gaze is constantly animating the life of a woman. And so there is very little of an air that a woman can breathe. And so what could women do? Women, for example, would just like the way we saw the first incident where the couple were married. They were just marrying. They just were purely in love. They married. And she was actually a threat because she was now violating the caste rules, meaning she was going to produce a baby which would not belong to the same caste. And that would be the kind of, the mixing of blood would actually expose the vulnerability or nuances of caste system. But that was not welcome. Caste system, the way it was functioning, you all know sati, the system of burning of a woman in a funeral pyre. If you all don't know, So there was a tradition, which fortunately is no more in existence, which we had recent incident as long as, I think, 30 or 40 years ago. But it was a prevalent tradition where a husband dies and a woman has to jump into the burning pyre to show her dedication and love to her husband, so she can meet her husband in heaven. A woman was forced to commit suicide by the system. Now, what's the reason? People give the reason that sati was meant to maintain the purity of the woman's soul and her dedication to the husband. Wrong. It was to maintain caste system. Child marriage was prevalent in India. So a man was probably 20 years older, married an 8 or 9-year-old girl. By the time she reaches 20, he's already sick and he's already dying. She's in a young age. And marriages are always in the subcastes among the same. So when the man dies and woman is in 20s or 30s, she is single. According to the Brahmin rules, Brahminical codes, a Brahmin cannot remarry a widow. So let's say we have a case where a Brahmin girl of 9-year-old and a boy or a man of 35-year-old, they get married. They are in the same caste. This man dies. Now there is a Brahmin woman who is in her 20s. She has a whole life to live. She is Brahmin. According to the laws of religion, she cannot be remarried, or she will not be remarried to a Brahmin, because according to the Brahmin rules, a Brahmin man cannot remarry a Brahmin woman. So what happens then? She has desires, she has life, she wants to live. So according to the codes, a Brahmin is stopped. No. So who else is open to this? The people who are excommunicated, who are outcasts. And so there is a threat that the people who are not within the fold of this Varna, this caste system, the Dalits or the Adivasis who are not part of that, they could easily remarry. But in order to prevent that from that happening, they encouraged this woman to rather die than being with someone who is not from the same caste. This is how it informs. Ambedkar had argued this in his 1916 paper. This is how the emergence of sati comes into being. The idea of endogamy is very central. And therefore, the women across caste in India are subject to caste system. It's just that they don't want to acknowledge the privileges. They don't want to acknowledge the damnation they are suffering under the caste system. They use the notions of patriarchy, which is caste-patriarchy, because this is where patriarchy is being informing or misinforming the caste system. Dalit women, for example, let's go to it. They are discriminated on they are fourfold discriminated on their caste, their economic situation, their spatial location, where they are located, and fourth, their gender. This is one of the most discriminated groups. And one, they are discriminated for 4 reasons at the same time. Being Dalit, being woman, being located in various specialities, or being poor. This is part of their life. 70% of Dalit women are illiterate in rural India. There's no education given to them. Thousands of girls are forced into prostitution before they reach puberty. The network IDSN says violence, including sexual assault, is used by dominant caste as a social mechanism for humiliating entire Dalit communities. So a woman is used, if you want to humiliate a Dalit community, go and rape the woman from that community, or go and rape the child. So it is a humiliation for the entire Dalit community. Caste system is not only in India. We can talk about it and on and on. You can see in UK, in the US, in Africa, South, Central, East, Africa, in Latin America, South Korea, Japan. We have the people, Burakumin people from Japan, who are similarly placed as the excommunicated untouchables. So the Burakumin people, we just did a conference with them, because many of you are from Japan and you might know the knowledge. The Burakumin people continue to face similar form of discriminations, but now many of them have changed their names. They have went to city areas because they're just afraid to own themselves up, because even the Japanese casteist society is unwelcoming the kind of Burakumin or the low caste people into their society. And this is what recently happened. I was in Fukuoka and I was in Kyoto as well. I was hanging out with the people and they were told there is an online hatred against the Burakumin people. And so much so that currently I was informed by activists that there is a xenophobia against immigrants coming to Japan. But the society is upholding, okay, we can't discriminate against these foreigners, but they're happy if a Buraku person is discriminated in this case. And this was evident. And this is what we see in India too. The progressive movements are very fine and standing in rights of global solidarities, but they are fine if a Dalit is being damned in the lowest position. Also, the history of in the African American struggle, the black people struggle across the world also has kind of similarities of the caste system, although caste and race differ in variations. One of the primary differences, well, initially it was debated. Of course, the race in America was talked as caste-race system, caste-racial system. That has become gradually a racial system. Religion is the primary sanction of caste in India. And therefore, people say when you have to get rid of caste, we say get rid of the religion that is actually perpetrating this kind of normalizing the former system and the codes of conduct. I just wanted to end this with that there's been movement in the Dalit movement where we had our own Dalit Panthers, like the Black Panthers of India. And I think there has been this affirmative kind of struggle based on, a radical consciousness of claiming and fighting for humanity on a whole part. He is Ambedkar, one of the formidable leaders of the untouchables or the now Dalits, and this guy's garland. This is a Buddha statue because they embraced Buddhism, and Buddha and Ambedkar becomes their guiding principle. Buddha as someone, a social revolutionary who could actually reject and fight against the caste system single-handedly, the Brahminic system that was in existence 2,500 years ago. Buddha was one of the first serious challengers, of course, before there was Charvaks, and now we see in modern form Ambedkar. Thank you.